Alright, after 1 minute and 38 seconds, welcome to the stream. Now, I want to start off by apologising twice. First of all, this stream was meant to happen on Saturday or Sunday, and it's ended up happening on a checking the day just to make sure that I don't get confused. Technically a Monday, but technically also a Tuesday because it's 1:52 in the morning. And it's a lot earlier than I would, not earlier, a lot later than I would ever stream. Usually I'd start around 11 o'clock, but stuff gets in the way, doesn't it? Basically, I'm gonna do what I intended to do in the Southeastern High Speed stream last time. And I'm also going to be doing other stuff later on, as normal. You know, I do things other than what I planned. There might be some people coming to the stream, there might not be. If there isn't, I'll just make do with it. Make sure it's on live chat for a start, that would be a smart idea. And I'm only going to set up a couple of trains on this particular route so far, because I don't want to hold you up. It does take a while. I'm not doing this one, so I don't need to say it to player service. F is where we're on. Nice. That goes from there to there. I'm stopping at Gravesend. So I'm beginning with driving the 375 all the way to Gravesend, which is down south near London. And then I'm going to drive the 395 from Gravesend to London St Pancras. So I'm going to show you the whole of the line in this particular stream, and I'm also going to be changing the weather to rain, because why not? Because sometimes it rains in the UK. When I say sometimes, it rains most of the time. And yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. Just making sure, because it is a little workaround. I can't actually set what's going on. It's this one. Seeing a couple of things on the way towards us, but not a whole lot. I haven't had time to set up the whole thing. Welcome to LaFay, who has joined. Hello. And yes, like I said, this stream is a lot later than I normally would do something like this. Usually I start around 11 o'clock. Jaws JD2, who I believe is Dominant Subdivision, yeah, I guess so. Jaws, anything like that, will probably do, referring to you at the moment. Let's remember to set the train up first of all, and make sure that it points us towards Gravesend. I hope it's on the destination board. Ah, right. Coolio. Some forward a bit. Oh, it's on our right, is it? It is. Come on, everyone, get out. Right. Wipers, I'm going to need those in a moment. AWS I will need on. Good. Day running. It should be technically night running from this point because it's 8 o'clock in the 8 o'clock at night, and then until 8 in the morning, that's when we use night running lights. But I'm going to use day running lights because it's clearly the daytime because we got the sun. So General Zawagka, welcome. Ooh woo indeed. Here's what I'm driving very quickly. I do need to move. And it says not in service on the board, that's not good. PIS should fix that. And it's far away, so I can't read it very well. Please say Gravesend is on here. It should be. It's not. Fine, I suppose we're going to start at the next closest thing. Gillingham then. Fine. Should have changed on the board there. Gillingham. And off we go. Well, this is some advanced shit. Never thought there'd be a train sim this in depth. Honestly, Dovetail Games, the people behind it, are also responsible for Train Simulator, which is a PC exclusive, because my console could never hope to run something like that. But Train Simulator on the PC actually has worse graphical quality than this. And part of me thinks that it might not be as in-depth. I'm speeding. No, I'm not. Not anymore. They've changed the speed limit. Yeah, so Train Simulator I don't think has as nice graphical quality. Train Sim World, on the other hand, which I'm playing now, is excellent because it's designed to run on consoles as well as on PC. So it's pretty much the all-rounder. It might not have as much content as Train Simulator because that has content going back years. I mean, they release one every single year, and I think all the content is compatible up to the latest version, maybe? I don't know. I've never really played it on PC. But I'm pretty sure that for what this is, it's quite impressive. It's pretty cool what they can do in these. It is. It is. The only thing it's really missing is proper weather effects, because I can't select those in the mode that I'm currently in. Thank you, DSD. So we started in Faversham in Kent, and we're going all the way to Gravesend, near London, near and then I'm going to drive to 395 all the way into London St Pancras. And I know that these numbers are not going to make any sense to anyone, because even I, as a casual train enthusiast, if you threw just a random number of a class of a train, I couldn't tell you what it was. I only know a few. Next stop is Sittingbourne though. Sittingbourne, yeah. Although because the screen is so far away from me, and the stream makes it a lot smaller, I can't read the distance from the station. Zoom in a bit now. No, okay. We could do without it going so much intermittent. I think we've got a while to go before we get to Sittingbourne. Let's see them make a train sim world with the quality of MFS details. What class is that me train? This is the 375, which is near indistinguishable from the 377, which is also in this game. It just has a different name, that's it, and a different colour scheme on it, but that's because this one's rendered in southeastern livery and the other one is in just southern. Both really nice trains, very smooth to operate, but still, I haven't got this door closed. It should be. There you go. I know it looks cramped, but I thought that as well. Got a friend with around 5,000 hours in both TS World and the older one. The original Train Sim World, I did pick that up back when that came out for console. this is the sequel, which you can use all your content from the original Train Sim world if you want to. I only ever bought one DLC on that. How long is the service for one of these? You know... Oh, another train passing by. Oh. 166. How long is the service for this? Well, because I streamed it and I sort of went through a red signal and that kind of failed me when I originally bought this DLC. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I believe it took me just over an hour to get to where I messed up, so I imagine it will take us over an hour. You do have there's a whole load of content with this, because not only can you make your own, design your own routes to do like I have. I just choose where we stop, really. I don't actually get to make or build anything, but I just get to choose where I stop along the line and how far I want to go along it. But the game already has like a 24 or 12 hour working timetable, depending on where you are, and you can play any of those whenever you want to. And everything is done in real time, so if a railway journey would take you an hour, you are sitting there behind the wheel of a train for an hour. No questions asked. Normally I'd have kind of like a due time to be there, but I don't have one because I made this myself. I like that a lot better, because then I'm not rushing to try and be on time. The railways are never on time anyway. 5,000 hours is a very long time to spend on it though. I couldn't imagine... I don't know, we'll see. Because it's probably keeping track of my stats somewhere. So let's say after a year, after I pick this up, maybe I'll have a look and see how long I've spent on it. But I don't think I'll be anywhere near 5,000 hours. I will stop it from raining once we reach Gravesend, because that's where I'll be taking over a different train. Slow down, please. I'm going to overshoot, aren't I? I never claim to be an expert, because I'm just not. Whoa. Stop. Oh well, we're still on the platform. I mean, stopping a train in the right place is difficult for real drivers to do anyway. Oh. Another train going past. Squeaky wheels. So yes. I could have picked another train to drive today, but I decided I'll have to do this one because it's included with the DLC and I didn't get to show off the whole of the line in that stream, so that's what I'm doing. Nice, nice. I am very thankful that there is a simulator like this on a console, because otherwise I would have no chance of playing it. Because I don't own a PC. I wouldn't know the first thing about PC or specs or anything like that. Wouldn't know anything about that. I am a bit curious, does it have notice boards inside the train like other ones? Just have on the side. Maybe... oh, it does. just say Gillingham inside, so passengers would know where we're going. I could ride as a passenger on a train if I wanted to, but I'm pretty sure everyone just comes to drive them. But it's an option in case you wanted to take it. Next stop is Rainham. And my accent makes it difficult to say Rainham in a way that people down south would say it. Hang on. I'm quite big into some combat flight sims myself, but I only know how to actually fly like 3 of the planes and only good at one of them. I'd say the trains that I'm best at driving are this one, the 377, and then the 166. I'm okay on the 395, surprisingly. I thought it might take a while, but it's actually not that bad. There are a few trains I'm pretty good at driving, but then there's the odd one that I either despise driving or never really look forward to. Thank you, DSD, for cutting in and making sure that I'm awake. I don't like the 101. The 101 I hate. I have driven it in a stream before, and I have driven it in its own video. But aside from that, I don't really look forward to driving the 101, and in my spreadsheet that I've got separately, because I'm a nerd, and because I'm really interested in making videos and driving trains, I made a spreadsheet and I decided I'll plan out what I'm doing in advance. I even gave it every single service that I'm going to be doing a code, because I'm that much of a nerd. Also, it kind of helps distinguish one from the other, so call it what you will. And I hardly ever want to use the 101 because the brakes are just so awful and I don't want to see them. Oh, another train just went past. What was it? Don't know. It was quite quick. Anyone see it? No? Was I looking away? I think I was. So we're not stopping at Newington then, which would be this station, I think. Maybe. Yeah. I do hope that in a few days I can actually get some therapy sorted out, but it probably will be a while. They gave me a wait time of 6 weeks. So I hope I can get that sorted out. And I imagine that this game will be instrumental in that, because it is a good way to spend your time. You won't spend more time on anything else, because when you drive a train you've got no choice to be there at all times. I can obviously pause the game, they're not that cruel, but yeah, if you're going to drive a train for 3 hours, you are sitting there for 3 hours. You know what, it's relaxing, even though it's a miserable day with the rain and everything. It's relaxing. At least I find it that way. And there's probably a lot of stuff they have planned for the game that I'm interested in having. Do any of these train sims have steam trains? Because I think that could be real neat. You know, every time someone mentions steam trains, I start thinking, okay, there is some steam trains in, I think, the original Train Simulator. That is a long time ago. They are planning on adding steam trains to Train Sim World, because that is something that a lot of people in the community have been a bit hyped about. Me personally, I love looking at steam trains. I don't think I'll be any good at driving them. So they really are bringing steam into the Train Sim World series. somehow, some way, using some steam train that I wouldn't know. They don't really like to give much information until close to release date. They certainly didn't with this DLC that I'm using now. And so they are bringing it, it's just that nobody knows when, and nobody will know when until they have an official release date. And they usually do put out a trailer at some point, or do a early stream to show off all the features. They do about 2 of those, and then it's launch day, and then they do a launch day stream. The developers do have their own team of people that do reach out on YouTube and do make videos and do make streams. So when that comes around, I'll be watching it, and then I'll let you know in my videos. But just know that they are planning on it. Steam trains are fantastic to look at, but there is a reason why we don't use steam trains anymore. The reason is because they are very expensive to maintain. And there's not very many of them left. Because actually most of them that were in the UK were actually scrapped. Just broken apart and melted down in the mid 1960s, when the whole of the British rail network was basically saying that, okay, we're going to get rid of steam power and we're going to switch everything over to diesel and electric. And now I think they're trying to phase out diesels in exchange for electric. What I'm driving right now is an electric powered train, and it uses energy power from the third rail, which is over on this side. At the moment it does change sides, and yeah, so they basically phased out steam trains at that point. But because they're planning on adding them into the game, they want to make it perfect, because steam trains are very important to get right for people who've been so into them for so long. They really do need to do them justice, or else people will be saying, hey, why did you mess this up? And also, driving one is a very different experience to driving something like this. So it really will be sort of new territory for them. If they want to make it complex and in-depth, they really do have to do a lot of things to get that right. But they are at least planning it. The only other thing that they have coming up, 2 things that I'm interested in, a class 313, and then also 313, the 465, which is coming up soon, very soon actually, I think. And then you have to pay for all these, by the way. None of these are free. I know I've got to stop at Gillingham, thank you game. 313, 465, and then there's also the Great Western 1970s pack, which I don't know which trains are going to be in it, but it's very early days. But hey, at least they're making another set of things that you can buy. If I'm interested in those, I'll pick them up. I think it could be real fun to drive one in a simulator, get to pull on them levers and chuck coal in a furnace. The thing is that the driver of a steam train would never... Technically they're separate jobs. Because a steam train relies on steam, and steam is kept under pressure, immense pressure, so much so that if it goes wrong it'll blow up. because it's just a massive boiler. And if that explodes, if the pressure gets too much, it will obviously blow up. So you need someone watching all the gauges and looking at all the water pressure and all of that. And then you've also got usually one or two guys shoveling coal into the furnace, which is what's heating up the boiler. And shoveling coal is a continuous job at which you don't get a break, because you have to keep it as hot as possible in order to produce the steam and keep it actually running. But if you give it too much to burn, then it will obviously get too hot, the pressure will shoot up, and it might, well, you're going to have to stop because it might explode. Steam trains are beautiful things, but they were assembled with parts that weren't standardised. Which is why restoring a steam train takes a long time, because you pretty much have to make all the parts custom made, because that's what they were when they were actually assembled. Whereas nowadays you just get a load of nuts and bolts and rivets and just pieces of metal and attach them all together. So it's not easy making a steam train that's realistic enough to go into a simulator and also faithful enough to the original, I should say, source material, and gives that experience that people want to have. And I don't know how they're going to do that, but we shall see. In the tunnel. Next stop is Chatham. Very dirty work though, working on a steam train. You'll come home entirely black because of all the coal and the soot. Oh, 377 going past. Very nice. You know, keeping trains in restoration. Oh my. That's a job we didn't really do. I was watching a... shouldn't really call it a documentary because it kind of wasn't one. It was just a collection of footage from railways, and it was basically comparing them as how they were, using old pictures and footage and such, to how they are now. And by now I mean in 1996, when the documentary was made. And it shows you basically what they've torn down to be replaced by modern additions to the railway and different trains that they've put on it. So you'd see steam trains, but the story was kind of always the same. They were all scrapped in the mid-60s, or most of them. And the few that survived were usually ones that were owned privately, or ones that had importance, such as Flying Scotsman, Mallard, Sir Nigel Gresley, all the ones named after kings like King Edward and such. And all those were definitely going to be restored because they were such important trains. But everything else that didn't have a fancy name on it, no, it's going on the scrap heap. And so there are only a few surviving examples of every single type of steam train that there ever were left. And it's very expensive to keep them running. And obviously because you've got to pay the rent for the shed that you're going to keep it in, and you've got to pay for all the coal got to pay for all the water. You've got to set up the railways all over again if you want to run a steam train along it for just a... I'll be right back. I'll still keep talking when I get back, but I'll be right back, hold on. Alright, I've returned. Where was I? I was talking about steam trains. Fantastic. And I would like to say, if you really want to watch the series on Britain's Railways Then and Now, you can watch that on Amazon Prime, because that's where I found it. And it was originally released on VHS, so good luck trying to find the original copies of them. It is on Amazon Prime and it is included for free, so you don't have to pay for it or anything. You do have to pay the subscription to Amazon, obviously. But it's a great series. I've only seen 2 episodes of it, but I've been enjoying every second of it. It's also been quite it tugs at the heartstrings. Because often what they'll do is they'll play you a piece of footage and they'll say, oh yeah, this is engine number 0506, whatever number, telling you what it's doing in the piece of footage, and then it will tell you about, at the end of the clip, oh, it was scrapped in 1964 or 65 or 66. That's usually when they were all just sent to the scrap heap, because they were all going to be replaced with diesels and electric trains at that point. Most of them were. Some of them are still around and are in preservation, and some of them do actually work still. And they only work thanks to the hard-working volunteers who are the ones keeping them running. It takes a lot of effort to preserve them because they are complex machines, much more complex than any engine in a car or something like that. So you have them guys to thank for keeping them around. I imagine it was a bit of a shock when people were told that, hey, steam engines will no longer be used, because nobody at the time when they were being used, the 40s, the 50s and every decade before that, nobody ever thought that they would ever go away. So those pieces of rare footage are the only things where you're going to see some of those steam engines actually moving and doing stuff. And it's quite rare that they're run on today. There are heritage railways around the UK where they still do run them, but it's a very expensive thing and they rely on people buying tickets to go onto the trains or donating to the charities that are keeping them all running. So they rely very heavily on that. I imagine they, like every other charity, has been struggling lately because we're in a pandemic. I do like trains, but I don't love them. I think a similar thing happened to early biplanes, but it's mainly because the planes were made of like cloth and wood and just fall apart after. Well, I believe what happened there was they discovered a new material that they could make planes out of, where they would still be light and get off the ground, but not be as weak as they were then. Planes are still very heavy things. The invention of the jet engine happened around the early 1940s when a man called Frank Whittle came to the Royal Air Force and basically said, I have a design for a jet engine. And they told him it would never work. And of course it did work, it still does work. But Frank Whittle never really made any money out of his invention because he sold it or gave the plans to everybody after the war. Which meant that American companies like Boeing and the like could use the jet engine in their designs and have been making their own ever since. Frank Whittle never made any money out of it. So we've got him to thank for all of that. If you've been on holiday on a plane and you've come however many thousands of miles, thank Mr. Frank Whittle for inventing the jet engine. Because otherwise, if you were going by a propeller plane, you wouldn't really be able to travel that far without refueling. And not that fast either. Steam engines were they required lots and lots of water and lots of coal and lots of loving care. Heavy maintenance costs, and they just weren't fast enough. They weren't fast, they weren't cheap, they weren't easy to maintain. In the eyes of the British rail network, they had to go. I haven't switched from this view in ages. Let's have a look on the outside, because why not? Oh, we're going in a tunnel, so... We're almost at Gravesend, and then from then on I'll back out and then switch to the 395, and I'll also make it stop raining. Because I imagine that looking at the rain is not too great. It does look miserable in the rain. There are plenty more places where I could drive, and I'll be doing maybe some later. Once I finish this, I'll work on what I'm doing next for the stream, because I like to do what I set out to do in the video title, but also do some things after that as well. The majority of the things that you will see in Train Sim World are diesel trains, which I like very much. And I do hope that when diesel trains do become obsolete, a lot of them already have been, that they are preserved and kept in working order the same way we do with steam trains, because that is unfortunately... But why have we got lights all of a sudden? All the lights have come on. Okay. It must be automatic in the train. But yeah, we dropped the ball with steam trains, and I think we should learn our lesson with other forms of rail transport, because eventually they're all going to be obsolete and they will be replaced. Things like what I'm driving now were actually built in the early 2000s and have just been updated and refurbished. Things like the 313, when that eventually comes out, and I do have to pay for these because they're all DLC, they're all paid for things. I don't mind paying for them because Dovetail obviously deserve the money, because they worked very hard putting all this stuff together. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it works. It's probably the best you're ever going to see, because it's a very niche genre, isn't it? So they're pretty much the only guys who are working this hard on it. They have drafted in other companies to help out at this precise moment, so they're not all doing it themselves, they're just growing and growing all the time. But yeah, I don't mind paying for content if it's as well done as this is, and it has been pretty consistent so far. Do have my gripes with the game. There are some things that I don't enjoy, and some things that have caused me a little bit of pain and anguish, shall we say, but other than that I don't really have too many complaints. The 313 that is going to be coming up, the original 313s were built in 1976. That's a long time ago. That's over 50 years now. Yeah, 30... I have to do maths in my head and I'm no good at it. 24 to get to 2000. And then 1 to get to 2001. 47 years. 47 years since the original 313s were built. And there are some trains that are still kept in use nowadays that may be very old. When you walk inside them, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that they're that old, because they've been refurbished, they've had new seating and lighting and everything else put into them. But yeah, the original 313s were built in 1976. And usually when they build them, they only build them for 4 years at a time, and then that's the number that they come out with at the end of that. The railway world is a very cutthroat world in terms of enthusiasts, because some enthusiasts are very angry that the new Class 800 trains are replacing the old 43 HSTs, which are amazing trains. They are brilliant. I love them to pieces. I can understand where they're getting at, but I also understand that the Class 800 trains are not that bad. They're not that bad. They're not so bad that I would do some of the things that they've done. For example, there are some people who are so angry about it that they rip up the seats because, I don't know, they think it's inferior quality to the original. It probably is, but that's because companies want to save money. It is very expensive. I don't hate the new modern trains. I do think that they're all mostly made out of plastic and mostly made out of lightweight materials like that, and they don't produce the same sort of effect. But I don't hate them to the extent that I wouldn't. I would just. I can understand why they replace things. If something is so old and decrepit, you have to get rid of it. You can't just keep running the same trains that were built many, many years prior running, because they will eventually fall apart. And they'll eventually need lots and lots of repairs just to keep them going, so you do have to replace them after a while. And I wish all these people in the railway enthusiast world would stop banging on about Pacers being so awful, because they're not. They're not that awful. Yes, it's a little dinky diesel train. Yes, the seats might not be super comfortable. Yes, it may not have Wi-Fi, but they were built in the 80s and the 90s where Wi-Fi was inconceivable. And I don't think a railway journey should just be you sitting on your phone or your laptop. I think it should be an experience where you look out of the window, because that's what the whole point of them having windows on carriages. Just look out of the window and see things going by from the view of a train. Don't just sit on your phone all the time. If a train gets you from A to B, does it really matter whether it has Wi-Fi or not? Does it really matter if the seats are slightly uncomfortable? Could be worse. You could be sitting on wooden benches like they would have originally had when railways were first conceived. So, it could be a hell of a lot worse. But yes, a lot of trains that are working on the current network are quite old, and they will probably be replaced very soon. The train that I'm about to drive next will be a fairly new modern train, even newer than this one. That took us 41 minutes and 21 seconds to drive from Faversham all the way to Gravesend, and we did 26.49 miles. Fantastic. And now I'll take over the 395 when I get back to the main menu, sort that out. All in a day's work. Right. Just putting the laptop on charge as well. I'll stop it raining. So here's timetable mode, which is... I'll just show you very quickly. I don't want it to be rain, clear. Thank you. There's timetable mode. You select which one you're going to be driving, and then you choose from these different times. So this is pretty much a 24-hour timetable, and this is as close as to real life as they could possibly get it, pretty much. If a train doesn't run at a certain time, they won't put it in. If they can't manage it on the current network, they won't put it in. But basically, they do try their best. Right, I'm going to take over this one. 7:45. Let's make it later in the day, because I can do that. And the rest of these trains will not be any problem because they are actually behind us, so that's good. Starting it up again. I'll be driving the 395. Okay, so apart from all that, right. Apart from all that, everything's fine, it seems. Could be a lot worse. So, the person that you knew, Dominant Subdivision, and I'm assuming he really enjoyed Train Sim World as a series probably more than I do. Inside of the ultra modern, when I say ultra modern, it's probably about 10 or 12 years old. 395 Javelin high speed train. Quite a long one because we got quite a few carriages today. I could swear the horn's not quite right, it doesn't sound quite right, but whatever. Right, now I have to do the DC power. Pan up, shoes down. And I think that means we're on DC power. We should be. Coolio. He's absolutely huge on trains. I think he even goes so far as to mod trains he likes into the game. Like make the mods himself. You know, is he somebody famous in the community that I should know about? Or is he not? Because I know that there is a group of people who mod things into Train Simulator. I know that. I think you can buy those mods separately if you had the PC and the stuff to run it, but St. Pancras isn't it? Yep. Do we have DC power? Yes we do. Nice. On the 395 all the way to London St. Pancras. And we will be getting up to some pretty good speeds later on, once we get past Ebb's fleet. Making the mods himself. If he works for a certain group of modders or something like that, then that would probably be interesting to know, because I wouldn't know much about them, but if I was to look up the name I could probably look up later on if he's part of all that or not. I have no idea, but wouldn't be surprised honestly. I believe the modding community is called Armstrong Powerhouse or something like that. Might be a different one. There are probably a few out there who do make their own mods. And if he's on PC with Train Sim World, then he can do a lot more than I can. because I have it on console, so essentially AWS is not on. Probably will want the cab lights on. Hit the brakes, put the brakes on. Cab lights. Good, good. I put it on max brake, you bastard. Yeah, I know it's an emergency situation, you want to stop. Yes, yes, yeah. Fine, I'll reset you. Shut up. Shut up. Coolio. Get moving again. I should have power. I don't. Huh. Brilliant work. I do such a fantastic job. I still haven't gotten the idea of how to reset it. Had a quick look on his profile, don't think he's part of any groups, he just really likes his trains. Well, that's fantastic then. Yeah. Being able to make your own stuff would be, well, great, because that means I could put any train that I wanted into this game. Pretty much. I mean, I'd have to see if somebody else was, well, I don't know quite how it's going to work. You'd either have to build it from scratch, or would have to borrow something somebody else has made and maybe finish that. Do it that way. But however it works, I'm glad he can enjoy things and make things his own with that. Right, starting up again. Shut up. Thank you. Uh-huh. AWS going off, there you go. And everything should be sorted. Right, don't put it into emergency, that's something that I've learned. Fantastic. Well, we're on the way again, and this time I'm going to try and not put it into emergency brake. So that's a cool ass looking train though. The 395. I am wondering how old this train actually is, and I believe it was built by Hitachi, the Japanese electronics company. I'm going to have a quick look. Apologies if I go really slowly because I'm looking up Yeah, it is built by Hitachi. That's fantastic. 2009 to present. Oh, okay. So built in 2009. Right, surprisingly, I don't really like many modern trains because I think they're all piles of plastic crap. But actually, this is alright. I like the way it looks, I like the way it functions. I think this is, as far as styling goes, this is kind of on the cusp of what I deem to be, yeah, that looks nice. It's not too modern and it's not too... It's not ultra modern in the sense that, oh, let's just make it look crazy with loads of bells and whistles on it, because that's what things are going to look like in the future. Cars thought that, people thought that cars would look like flying saucers in the future, when they ever so clearly don't. So, don't go too ultra modern design with anything, that's what I always say. But even then, some of the cars that they came up with back in the past, when they thought that everything in the future was going to have that same sort of look to it, they still do look nice. Wouldn't say they look that bad. Cool looking train, yes, very nice. And on James May's Toy Stories, which is another program that is on Amazon, which I did watch. They were essentially doing a challenge where they had to build the world's longest model railway, and it stretched for about 10 miles. And on that model railway, they put a prototype model train, which actually does run around the track. You know the ones. Of this, a 395. But at that point, back in... I think he did that series in 2009, it was only a prototype toy. So it was very expensive to get a hold of that prototype toy, because this train I don't think had barely been built yet. And they'd already made a toy of it, so that, model railway collectors can get their hands on it. So, yeah. And that was on the same day after I'd just driven this, and I thought, hey, I just drove that. 395. I didn't know that around that sort of time it was just a prototype that wasn't really being made yet. It's a very cool train, and when it gets up to speed you'll think it's even cooler. But on this part of the line, behind Ebbsfleet, we're not really going to be getting amazing speeds. Awesome. Unlock the doors. In terms of sim games, I like ones with older tech. It's much more fun working with a different jank of each machine. Well, I'll be showing you some other trains in this, hopefully in the stream in a bit. Right. How to put the pantograph up now. Control pan up, shoes down. Press. Is it done? Pantograph should be up. And it's all the way back here, I think. Well, yes, it is. So we should be powered by AC now, which is a lot more rapid than DC, which we were on before, and this thing will get some proper speed going all the way to Stratford International, and we are going to be going 130 kilometers an hour. So we've switched over from miles per hour to kilometers per hour, and from this point TVM, that system, will be jumping in to tell us the information we need to know. Nice. There we are, CVM's active, telling us that the speed limit is 130 kilometers an hour, and our speedometer that's in the train is measuring in kilometers an hour. But the speedometer that's on my screen, on the heads-up display, is measuring in miles per hour because that's what I always use. And the blue sort of circular dot on the speedo is the top speed that TVM will give me. So if you're wondering what all those squares were on the dashboard, that's what it's for. And this section of the line from Ebbsfleet to St Pancras, it has the AC overhead wires and the TVM system in place. So we can reach some decent speeds, I hope. Although there are a lot of tunnels before we can get there. 225. If you don't know what it is in miles per hour, read my speedometer. If you want to know what it is in kilometers per hour, read the train's red speedometer to know how fast we're going, but we are accelerating very rapidly. It is a little bit of a shame because I can't show you kind of a camera view of this because we're in a tunnel, and obviously the camera won't leave the tunnel because it's a solid object. But essentially, there are other places I could take this to show you it much better than what it is now. There you go. Climbing very steeply. And there's a Queen Elizabeth Bridge, I believe, there, which is actually on the artwork for the DLC itself. Although not to scale, because it's much closer to the camera than it is in real life in that art, but we'll gloss over that. Have to make it look interesting. Sound work with the horn. Yeah, it is quite odd because we're going so fast and the game might not know what to do with that sound. Funny thing about the flight sim I play, the planes I'm best at flying are all in Russian, so I don't know what any of the gauges say. It's pretty odd. $129, 130 miles an hour. 131, still climbing. I mean, I wouldn't know what they were saying either. But eventually you'll kind of pick it up because of what it's... yeah. With the flight sim, do you get a heads-up display as well, or do you just get the stuff that's on the quote-unquote dashboard on the plane? Because in this you can play without the heads-up display, and you can just read the dials if you want to know all that information. You can play this without any heads-up display at all. If you don't want the game to hold your hand, the game will not hold your hand. Unfortunately, I'm not confident enough for it not to hold my hand at this moment in time. Especially because it would be very embarrassing on the stream if I act all confident, oh yeah, I'm going to drive this route without any heads-up display, and then immediately fail it because I'm either going too fast. The reason that we got TVM in the first place is because we're going so fast that we can't read any of the signs telling us how fast to go on the side of the tracks. That's the reason why TVM is even here, to tell us what the speed limit is, remotely. Stratford International in 7 miles, but we're going to be eating them up quite quickly. You just get the dash. The only heads up you get is if if an ally plane is 500 meters away. Oh, I see. Oh, it's the combat thing. Oh, so it's the combat game. Is it in World War II? Yeah. Is it that one? I've seen people play that, but I can't remember who or when. It's got a name as well for it, hasn't it? Yeah, it's got a name and I can't remember what the name of it is. The whole series of the game itself. But I swear I've seen people play it. I thought, that looks very interesting, however I think I'll be the worst person ever to ever play that. I can do trains, right? Trains are something I can do. War Thunder and IL-2. It's IL-2 that I've seen before. War Thunder, yeah, I've seen that as well, but I think IL-2 is the more in-depth simulator, isn't it? I'm gonna want to start slowing down a bit. Yes, we are only looking at a tunnel. It's a bit of a shame. War Thunder is quite fun. I played it for a while. Beep. Oop. IL-2 actually has multi-crew planes, so you can have a buddy hop in a gunner or bomb scope. Yeah, that's the one that I meant, that I'd seen before and that was quite in-depth. 200. Okay. War Thunder I did have a go at, and I think War Thunder is one of those games, it's free to play, but to get really far in it you have to pay money to get like extra points or something, extra in-game currency to, I don't know, repair your plane or something like that, or to get new ones. It's one of those games that, yes, I know that this game costs money to buy, the base game, and I know that it costs money to buy the DLCs for this game as well, but it doesn't revolve around in-game currency. There's this game, and I like games that don't revolve around that. I understand some have to exist. I don't have a problem with every single game that has that sort of system. I don't have a problem with it most of the time, but for some of the time when it's in your face, oh, pay so much money and then you'll be able to repair your plane instantly or wait however many hours. It's when it's like that that I think that, yeah, there's a bit, this probably isn't going to be for me because I have to wait. As opposed to this, where I don't really have to wait at all. The only waiting I have to do is in loading screens. But driving trains is fun. And Train Sim World is kind of the more casual of the train simulating games. So if you want to pick up Train Sim World, or ideally you want to get the sequel, even though I think the original game had better content in it from the get-go, you want to try and get the sequel, because the sequel will give you access to If you want to buy all DLCs that they're basically repackaged for the second game, you should do that. Yeah. But I'm quite happy with what I've got at the moment. In terms of this game, it's just single player. There is no multiplayer. And to be honest, that's a good thing, because if there was multiplayer, someone could just stand in the way, someone could just park a train up ahead on the line past the signal, and the signal on my end would go to red, and unless he moved, I wouldn't be able to get past. So I'm kind of glad that there is no multiplayer. But I'm also not glad in that I can't really share much of this with friends or anybody else. Because it is just me driving a train. That's it. It's a very simplistic concept, it works. But I can't really share this with other people much. And it's a very niche thing, driving a train. Plenty of people like racing games where you get to drive a car. Plenty of people like combat simulators. Plenty of people like all of those. But driving trains, doing what is essentially a job, somehow it's a lot less popular. So it's a lonely thing, but at the same time, because I'm streaming it, it means that I'm not alone. I feel like I'm sharing it with other people, this experience here. Like other YouTubers do, because there are people who do videos that are much better than mine, with better microphone quality than mine, who can drive a lot better than me. And yeah, I mean, they have people who watch their videos all the time, because they're just interested in what there is. In fact, that is what I did before I bought Train Sim World, the original game. I watched streams done by both a team at Dovetail and also just regular YouTubers who wanted to play it, to see whether I'd be interested in buying it, because I thought, oh, it's coming to console, that's fantastic. Because consoles don't really get simulator games. There's this real old tycoon game I play every now and then. You basically go operate a transport network, and people have found out how to PV? What? Oh. Sorry, the PlayStation stream chat box is quite small. There's this real old tycoon game that you basically get to operate a transport network, and people have found out to PvP by blocking each other's routes and buying surrounding land. Well, I'm kind of glad that this game doesn't have multiplayer, because then someone could mess up your entire journey. Unless, of course, I don't know. There is probably a convoluted way around that, stopping people from doing ridiculous things like that, but at the same time they're probably thinking, well, nah, it's probably not worth it to even do a multiplayer, because whatever happens, it is just going to be you and the train itself. I mean, no one else can really sit in my cab and do anything. And would I really want someone in the second man seat, which is right here, with close proximity to the emergency brake? I don't think I want that. Unless I trusted them, and I trust them implicitly in order to do that, because that would get on your nerves quite quickly. Because an emergency brake will stop the train, and it will make sure that it's stopped before you can release it again. Thanks to DSD? I mean, AWS shouldn't be on this line this far up. I think we're almost at we're almost at St Pancras. Just out of this tunnel and we're there. Not far to go yet. And then we can pretty much do another thing, and then I've completed what I set out to do in today's stream. Now I've just got to make sure that I can stop in St Pancras, which I haven't done yet. And St Pancras is the station where you can catch the Eurostar. Because they also run out of here as well. But for all intents and purposes we are in London. Once played the Tycoon game with some friends and bankrupted them by building willy-shaped rail networks around all their cities with some funny stuff. Well, I mean, everyone's free to enjoy every game in whatever the way they think is good. You know, that would really, if I was the victim of that, that would really annoy me, and to be honest, I would never do that to somebody else. Even if it is just a video game, and even if they didn't, oh god, please stop, please stop, please stop, there's a buffer. Okay, unlock the doors, we're in London St Pancras, pretty much finished. Just got to unlock the doors, let people out who will be popping out of existence because, you know, full train though, pretty much. Don't know why people are staying on, because this is the last stop. Oh, you're getting on it, sir, that's very nice. The human AI is very bare bones and very basic. The only thing they really know how to do is do idle animations, walk, and get on and off the train, that's it. They don't really do anything else. In fact, even when it's raining, they don't even take out an umbrella. But then again, it's not about the people, it's about the trains. So, wouldn't expect them to do very much with that. And there we go, 24 minutes and 6 seconds. Did 24 miles, 24.61 miles. We didn't walk anywhere because we didn't even need to get out of the train. And there we go. That's the whole southeastern high-speed route. And I might run that in a future stream or video, but that was just me showing it all off, because I failed to do that the last time. I will take a short break, I'll be right back, and then I'll work out what I'm going to be doing next. If you guys have any suggestions about what you want me to do next, please do let me know. Or if you need me to explain stuff later on, just ask questions and I'll answer them as best I can. Back in a moment. Alright. And I have to do something else now. Not sure what I want to do, but new choice. There's a lot of different routes here that I can drive along using any train that I really want to. Transpennine is my local one, so guess I could start with this one. Or I could go through all of them and basically show you all the trains that are actually available in the game. Ones that I actually know how to drive. $45, $47, $66, $375, you've seen that one. $395, you've seen that. $37.5, $31, $20, and there are more, obviously. Timetable. High speed train. This one. 166. Quite a lot of choice. The 375 and 20 look real dull. I can drive the 20. That one I can do. Although where I'm going to drive it I do not know. The 20 has really crap brakes, but I'll see what I can do. I don't really want to drive it on one it's not really meant for. I'll just take it from Manchester, why not? And I'll take it to, guess we'll go to Mossley. Why not? Don't really want to stop it anywhere. I'll use the 20. I'll use the variant that has 2 in it, because I prefer driving on one side of it than the other. I hope that it's facing, well, probably will be facing the right direction. I'll take the 20. Most railway enthusiasts would probably tell me to take something like the 45 or the 37, but 20, 2 of them lined up. I can unhook the rear one, and I am facing backwards, but I mean, drive it from either side if you want, because there's this seat and then there's that one. I should probably unhook this one. Oh. Get up, thank you. Uncoupled, fantastic. That's got the handbrake on, so it shouldn't have a problem staying still. Master key should be in. Right. There we go. Light shouldn't be red because we're not going forward. Fantastic. This is the hot plate. And the hot plate is basically if you want to cook a meal or boil some tea or something like that, you've got the hot plate, which is kind of does what it says on the tin. Could put the wipers on if we wanted to, but there's no real need because it's a clear day. And we'll drive out of Manchester. Manchester in the modern day, well, this isn't in the modern day, this is set in 1983. The tail lights are back there, but I don't think it should matter. So when they modelled this route, it was in 1983 when they took the inspiration to model it. Line still does exist today, and the modern day Manchester is this train looked real cool though, like the interior, very old, and I don't really remember when they were making these, when they actually built one, but I can look up. If you look up class 20 you should be able to find it pretty much. 1957 is when they first started, and I believe this is probably one of the later models. Maybe, could be. I really like the noise it makes as well. I mean, pure diesel power. Yeah. So Manchester in the modern day is more the sort of... I don't really like Manchester too much, I have to say. It might be just a rivalry thing. Because I live in Leeds, it might be just a rivalry thing. But I've just never found myself liking Manchester very much. Brakes in this leave something to be desired. I mean, they're not that bad, but they could be... To be honest, driving it on its own is a lot better than with two attached, to be honest. I could drive it facing this way, which I am, or I could drive it facing this way. So those little windows will be the only port of view that I'd have into the outside world. Reminds me of the game project I was working on a few years back. About clunky diesel powered mechs, had to drop it because the guys I were working with flaked on me. Diesel powered mechs, I mean, diesel is very powerful. And diesel engines usually do make quite a nice bit of racket. Which you should hear in a moment. When it kicks into life, yeah? Yeah. Right. Well, I'm sorry that they flaked on you, because that does sound like an interesting project. Could open the window as well. Cab heater. Could have that on if I wanted. Don't know what that one does. What does this one? Oh, it dims the lights, pretty much, on the dials. It does like to make that high-pitched whine a bit. Really? Oh. Are you? Yeah, that's not just something that's on my screen. So the destination thing at the top left is kind of greyed out at the moment. It is still there very faintly, you can kind of see it, but yeah, that's a shame. Don't know why it's done that. I mean, we've got a while to go, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of a readout as to where I am in relation to where I'm stopping. When the signal starts turning yellow, that's usually an indication that you're going to be stopping soon. I mean, there's all sorts in here. You can open the fuse cupboard if you want to, but you can only take out one fuse, realistically speaking. There's all this sort of stuff. Hot plate. Didn't really matter, it doesn't do anything, you know. But it's nice that it glows red when you want to turn it on, like it should do. DSD pedal is down there. Might be able to pick up the project back up in the future, but the game was built around tech and the Unreal Engine, which just isn't available in what I work with now. Train brakes take a while to come off. That much I do have noticed. I mean, I know nothing about making games. Excuse me. I know that the Unreal Engine exists and it's a thing, but other than that I wouldn't know how to make a game or what kind of obstacles will be in your way when you're doing that. I mean, just in general I think what we need is more console oriented simulators, really. I imagine you're probably from the south of the UK, I imagine. Likely. Whereas I'm in the north. Like I said, I live in Leeds. I've never liked Manchester a lot. It is kind of the quote-unquote gay hub of the north, sort of. Not really. There is kind of one in every single British city somewhere. But I think for most of the sort of LGBT focused stuff, people go to Manchester rather than Leeds. Never been to any of those things myself because I'm an unsociable individual. I don't like to go out very much, but that's usually what people kind of do if they're so inclined. I just never liked Manchester at all. I don't understand the appeal. I've never understood why anyone would want to go there. Sometimes I say the same thing about Leeds. I don't understand why anyone would want to come here. But what can you do? We do have lights in this, but they are very, very weak. No, I'm Midwest Birmingham. Oh, in the Midlands, right. In the Midlands. And where is the... We do have lights on at the front. They are incredibly weak and they won't really serve us any, but we can move the head code discs if we want to. And there are different head code discs in different configurations mean you're carrying a different kind of load, because this is primarily a freight train, but I'm not hauling any freight today. I prefer passenger trains if I'm completely honest. It's nice that they'll let me drive it on its own though. I know I'm speeding, but it doesn't really matter to me. Very dark in these tunnels. I will say that. Ooh. Birmingham I think is quite nice. Probably. Never been there myself, but I think it probably is quite nice. But this line does run from Manchester all the way to Leeds, and then back again. You can go in either direction if you want to. As it was in 1983, so you won't see any AWS markers on the tracks, or magnets, because there just aren't any. You do have AWS compatible equipment here. But I have no idea how to turn it on or off in the Class 20, so it's off by default and I don't know how to turn it on. I should know, but there are some gripes that I have with Dovetail Games and their practices. One of those practices is the manuals. They do make manuals for every single train that they have in the game. The only problem is that finding them is a pain in the arse, because they're not actually in-game. It may give you a tutorial on how to use the train, but it never runs through the in-depth stuff. So the in-depth stuff they don't really go through unless you're reading the manuals. Should I probably start slowing down, because I don't know how far away I actually am. It's only when it changes to yards that I really know how far. Yeah. Slow down. I'm not chancing it. I'm gonna need less than... Gonna need to approach at about 20 miles an hour. Because this thing doesn't have the greatest brakes in the world. on the top of console sim games, one of the biggest problems is the precision of the controls, and too few buttons on the controller. Most flight sims just won't work well. I've never quite understood. Well, the way this game handles everything is that there are things that are bound to the controller. So if you wanted to, you could click and drag the locomotive brake, and you could actually do that and move it yourself. If I press the button on the controller that corresponds with it, it will move. But that light shouldn't be green, but oh well. Oh, okay, it's far away in front, it probably won't correspond to me, okay. Yeah. Unsuspected vehicle formation, I know because I dropped the other one at the station. How long was that? Was that 17 minutes? It was a long time. Huh. Alright. 10 and pretty much a half miles. Then again, I wasn't really going that fast. I mean, I think that there's enough on a controller. You will have to simplify it, obviously, but there are things that do suck about doing it on a controller. Because there's no separate buttons for high and low horns on here, so I can't toggle between the two, I only get one or the other. There's no button to let you turn off the HUD instantly, as you can on PC. There's no button on the controller to quickly change from camera angles. And yeah, I mean, I imagine it'd just be a lot easier on PC, but to be honest, because I'm a console guy, I won't ever want to have a PC. I can attach a keyboard if I want to, but I don't think the game will let you sort out what button you want to do what. It's just not that in depth. Tees Valley, because why not? And choose this one. Where are we going? Oh, 166. I don't really want to be going too far. I like to change things up a bit when I go around. Guess what I could do is something from somewhere. Let me work that out. Let's go from London Paddington, because why not? To that one goes to Hayes and Harlington. I mean, that would be kind of fine. Paddington. Yep, yes please. Reading. Let's go to West Drayton. And I'll take the 47. I do also like the cab of the 31, but like other trains, I'll take the 47 on its own. The 31 doesn't have the most amazing brakes in the world. Don't want it to be a passenger service because, I mean, I'm not taking any passengers. And I'll begin. Right, let us begin. Here's what I'm driving. 47. And I will probably, I'll go out and set the relevant things. Where's the cab lights? They are there. And also up there. Fire alarm is over there. AWS, because it does have that. Tail light does not need to be on. Desk light probably doesn't make any difference, and I've never noticed that. Get up out of the thing. Just D button. Marker lights, yep, please. Do need those. Tail lights not on this cab. Train light dim switch dim. That doesn't really matter. Engine only. I'll stop the engine. And I can start it back up again when I need to. Okay. Taillight, I don't understand why it's split up into the left and the right. I'm guessing it's probably going to need to be on maybe that side. Maybe on the left. I mean, it's only on the left and the right. And it lets me choose that one, and oh good, I'm on the track. But they have modelled Paddington in its well, mostly in its entirety. So there is that. AWS is not on in that cab, it's on the front one, so that should be fine. Handbrake. Is that it? Applied and released. Huh. It's very quick, that's very easy. Engine only. I believe we got engine power. And look, straight brake. How good is the straight brake? Takes a while to come off as well. That is a very high pitched horn. I have no idea why it's that high pitched, but it is. It is. Not a clue, but it is. It is that high pitched for some reason. And you've obviously got all the gauge lights. However, there should be a button to turn those on somewhere. Trim. Don't think I want that. Are they on by default or not? Well, don't know how to turn the gauge lights on. Are they already on? They might be. I believe the sound designers have been working on changing the sounds of this particular train. It's also very loud. Used to sound like a jet engine pretty much. There is no window. Oh, there is. It does tumble around a bit. Max speed is 95 apparently. I don't know, will it go faster than that? We'll see. We pretty much have 125 miles per hour to as a limit. The wipers do work. There you go. Turn that one on if you want, if you're sitting in the second man seat. Quite dirty, but then very powerful thing. And 100 miles an hour, so max speed is not 95, sorry. Seems much higher than that. Is it that they only recommend that you drive at a 95? Probably. But the actual top speed is above 95, so we're good, I think. $104. Storming our way towards West Drayton. And there is an alternate version of this particular train that is available in West Somerset Railway, that DLC, which is actually in a very nice sort of green colour, very clean, not dirty and whatnot like this one. However, I don't have that DLC, and one of the reasons that I don't want to get it is because it costs £20 to get that DLC, and the way that they've sorted it out is you need a particular DLC to buy a certain DLC locomotive separately, and to actually buy the Class 52 and the 33 you need to have West Somerset Railway installed. Otherwise they won't let you buy it, because those trains are designed to run on those routes, and they include the proper tutorials and timetables and all that sort of stuff with them on those routes. But what I've kind of been thinking to myself is, well, I'm not really too interested in timetable mode. That's certainly not what I'm doing in here. So I thought, why don't they just let me... I'll close this window, how do I... Why don't they just let me, you know, buy it and do whatever I want with it? It's up to me what kind of content I want to miss out on. I'm just saying. But apparently the BR Western 1970s pack, which is coming out at some point, they are working on it, but comes out at some point, will include a 52 anyway, probably, maybe. It'll also include a 101, of which I already have two, because I got one from Northern Transpennine and I got one from Tees Valley. Albeit they're in slightly different colour schemes, but that really doesn't matter because they are exactly the same. It's exactly the same train, pretty much. So we get a 52 with BR Great Western 1970s, but we'd also get a 101, apparently, according to the trophies and achievements that are linked with that leaked whatever it is. That's apparently the two trains that are coming in that pack. Now, I would have hoped it would have been a 70s version of the HST, which looks more like the original HSTs, because that one's just had another panel covering the headlights and such, a different colour scheme. So I would have preferred to have something like that instead of... Was that DSD? Why were you acting up? I couldn't hear that. Could you? It's kicked in the emergency brake, hasn't it? Yeah, Alarm, right, okay. So it's kicked in the emergency brake because of reasons. Reasons that I can't understand. I mean, the alarm must have gone off, but... how do I reset it? So when the alarm goes off, I have a few seconds to press the button, which is mapped to the circle button. But I didn't hear the alarm. The brakes are permanently on, aren't they? Well, I'll turn AWS off then. It's gonna be like that. Now all that's left to do is figure out why oh. Yeah, but I didn't hear an alarm then, so... I don't think that's my fault. You know, I'll watch the stream back and see if I can actually hear an alarm, but I'm pretty certain I didn't. One of the biggest problems with adding content into sim games is usually licensing, because you got to get permission to other homes and model of train before you can add it into the game. Indeed. But, I mean, they already have the rights to use those liveries from those companies already. So it's the same company that's operating my Class 47 here, British Railways, and it'll be in the same sort of colour scheme as this, pretty much. So they've already got the rights to do that. It's just a matter of, I would have preferred to have something completely new as opposed to a train that we've already seen before, technically. You guys obviously haven't, I haven't. But it's a bit disappointing to just have the same train over again, the 52 and the 101. The 101, I already have two of those. This is not looking good for me. I've completely gone past it. So the 47, you need a lot of space to slow down. And I will have to kick it back into reverse, and I passed the signal, haven't I? Oh dear. Not that I'm complaining though, the 52 is very nice. I'd love to drive that. It's just the 101, if you're going to package it in again. Oh dear. Stop. There we go. 16 minutes for that. Probably would have been less, but if I hadn't have messed up with the alarm there. Well, there you go, you've seen quite a few things today. From 2 hours, 10 minutes, I think that's a decent amount of time to be streaming for. So what I'll do is I'll leave it off here. Thank you all for coming, and I'll be back another time. Hopefully quite soon. I'll see you all around.